Welcome to Keen on Retirement, a show dedicated to helping you thrive before and during your retirement years. If you are looking to grow and protect your wealth and want to make the second half of your life the best half, then listen in as wealth advisor Bill Keen sorts through the key issues that you need to know in a lively and candid way.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Keen on Retirement. I'm here with Bill Keen and Matt Wilson. Hey, guys.
Steve, you are here. You are there.
I am here. I am here.
You're
and
not
you're not.
AI today?
No,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is the real McCoy.
Okay.
Matt, I had a friend of mine recently give me a hard time about he calls it my Batman glasses.
Batman.
You have dark
Batman
glasses.
Better than Batgirl glasses.
Yeah,
Clark Kent?
Clark Kent. Yeah. I said, these are
Superman?
still in style. He says they're not. And you have dark glasses on today as well. I think I'm going to stand with it.
Tortoise shell.
Okay. People tell me the tie has gone out, and I stuck with that. I haven't got a three-piece suit today for our YouTube viewers. Look at this three-piece.
Oh, man.
Bill, come on, man.
Look
Get
at
with the
that,
times.
Yeah. How about that? Just really going against the actually, it was cold. Somebody said, why'd you break that? I said, well, because it's cold. I needed
You stay warm in the office?
another layer.
I think it's just that you're so far ahead of the trend here, Bill, that by the time the three-piece suit comes back in style, you're like have been the
He's on to the
trendsetter.
next one. Yeah.
They're going to point to Bill Keen. Well, Bill Keen set the trend. He's been wearing a three-piece suit for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you guys are ruthless on me, which is that's good. I like it. I can take it.
I know.
If you weren't,
Skinny
I would
suits
know you
aren't in
didn't
style
care
either.
about me anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Well, speaking of getting cooler out and this time of year, we're going to have a short week next week. We've got Thanksgiving coming up, which is always a great time of year.
Mm-hmm.
You getting ready for that, Steve?
Yeah. We'll have, our local kids, I think, will be here for Thanksgiving. And then at Christmas, we'll have all the kids over here, including our daughter and husband and grandson from Wisconsin will be coming to the West Coast here.
Mm.
And so we're all looking forward to getting everyone together here for Christmas.
Okay.
I love it.
Is there a popular gift this year, Steve, that you know of that the grandchildren want?
No, I don't know.
I know.
I
I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah. I thought you were going to ask, is there like any popular dish that you have for, say, Thanksgiving? So I'll ask the question and I'll answer it. How's that?
Okay.
Steve, is there a popular dish that your family has for Thanksgiving? We have the famous, or depending on who you ask, the infamous barbecued green beans.
Oh,
wow. Have you, you guys in Kansas City, you know about barbecue. So have you ever had barbecued green beans?
I can't say that we have.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I certainly,
Yeah, well, you should try it sometime. I'm happy to share the recipe, but
you
just make the barbecue from scratch with your, one of the keys to it is putting bacon in it.
Okay, now you're talking.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So you got bacons, you got onions, you got brown sugar, Worcestershire sauce, ketchup, and onions. I think that's it.
Okay.
So mix all that up. You dice the bacon into little small pieces, and you got to make a double batch of the toppings. So the recipe says put this much in, and then we always double it because we love the topping. And then you just put the topping over the green beans, and then you put it in the oven for, 15, 20 minutes to heat it up, and it's to die for.
Oh, buddy. I think you've committed yourself to, and your production team there to put that recipe in the
Share
show
the
notes.
recipe. There. Okay. All right. Well, it's not our recipe. We got it many, many years ago. I don't know exactly who the author of that recipe is, but it's handwritten, and so we always enjoy having that. So that's sort of our special We usually just reserve it for Thanksgiving, but every once in a while we'll make it outside of Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Okay. Well, I love it. I mean, don't think we run the risk of getting any trademark infringement or patent infringement if we were to upload that paper.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And yeah.
Yeah. So how about you guys? Do you have any special Thanksgiving recipes?
So I always go to my sister's house. She lives just west of St. Louis, so that's where we're headed. And
Mhm.
they call it grandma's mac and cheese, so something that my grandmother would make, but I don't know anything about the recipe.
Hmm.
But it
Does
is
it taste good? It is
It
good.
is good
Okay.
most of the time. Depends
Is
on
there
the
anything
chef.
special in the mac and
I
cheese?
just think there's a lot of cheese, but I couldn't tell you.
We won't be uploading this one.
Yeah,
It's
trying to
not
get the
Kraft mac and
recipe.
cheese, I hope.
No, it's handmade. I think there's just a lot of different types of cheeses in it.
Okay,
too.
now I've had mac and cheese with bacon in it.
Oh man,
Mac
you're
and
into the
cheese
bacon.
with tuna in it. I think that's a
Yeah.
pretty common one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good gourmet mac and cheese. You go to a restaurant, sometimes
Oh
they'll have a
yeah,
gourmet mac and cheese, and those can be good.
lobster mac and cheese. That's a
Yeah,
popular
lobster,
one at all
sure.
these
Yeah.
places. Yeah.
Okay, guys, can we put this on pause? You're making me hungry. I'm going to go get something.
Yes. Oh,
Bill, how
goodness
about you?
gracious.
Any special recipes you guys have?
Well, I don't know that there's any special recipes, but I think I should give voice to just last weekend. I was out. I'm very fortunate that all of our kids and grandkids are in Kansas City. I've shared that, I think, several times on the program. So we all have just a fun, really fun and engaging time coming up here next week together. But last weekend, we had an early Thanksgiving celebration with Carissa's family, which is north. Matt, I mean, is it north of Moberly? Do I have that about right?
Yeah, north of Columbia.
North of Columbia. Yeah,
Yeah.
north of Columbia, Missouri, where Mizzou's headquartered there. And I have the funnest time up there with her uncles and her cousins and her whole family. They get the Jeeps out, the side-by-sides. They make trails through the woods. Now I grew up in the city here, so I'm used to driving on the road and avoiding driving through the places where there aren't roads. But the objective is to make your own road through the woods. And then if you get stuck, that's just kind of fun because you get to get the winches out and now you got a problem to solve, right? So there was we had a what do you call it when there's 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 vehicles, like a caravan of these vehicles
Race.
going through all this
Convoy.
acreage and the woods and I just down in creek beds and things that got my attention. So I get to ride with this time I got to ride with Uncle David, and I just love those guys, Jim, and the whole group over there. It's just they make me feel really, really welcome too. I mean, it's been quite a few years. I think they're stuck. They know they're stuck with me at this point, but that's just a really fun time to get out of the city and head out to the country like that and experience a day or two like that. So,
So
good stuff.
you remember the movie City Slickers with
Oh,
Billy
I surely
Crystal?
do, and I've
Yeah.
done that before. I've gone to a dude ranch before for a
Yeah.
wedding bachelor party.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. It's been many years. I know at some point we're going to get to the topic of our financial program today.
Well, do we have to? This is fun.
Yeah. But I was invited out. Okay, last story, and we'll get to our topic.
Okay.
I was invited to a bachelor party, and it wasn't wild, right? It was a bachelor party, like at a dude ranch, like in Wyoming. And my buddy David and his father was there, his brothers, and there was probably six of us or so. And so I go down to the local Western store, and I get a duster. Do you know what a duster is? A big black duster with the shoulder pads hanging down like a long coat,
like a big trench coat, right?
like a big cowboy trench coat. And I bought a black Stetson, and I come out, and I show up at the place, and I'm from Kansas City with my duster and my Stetson,
Yeah.
and the cowboys there assume that I know what I'm doing. And they put me on a wild horse, no, it wasn't
horse.
wild. It was a horse.
They want to put you to the test.
They gave to their guests, but it was one of the ones that was ready to go. So I needed to make sure in the future not to not to show something that
Wow.
I'm not. So that made it pretty interesting when it took off across the field, and I didn't have a lot of experience on horseback. But we really did. We herded cows. We took our hats off, had lunch, took a nap out there in the mountains. I mean, it was really cool. So
Yeah.
anyway, all right.
Well, so Matt, wasn't there a car called the Duster?
Gosh, there could be, but if it wasn't like a sports car, I probably. But even then, I'm not good on a lot of those historical vehicles.
I'm going to look it
So
up here.
I'm sure there was. There's been all kinds of crazy named cars over the
Well,
years.
speaking of cars, you two are working us closer to our topic.
We
of
are getting
today.
close.
Oh, Plymouth Duster. There it is.
Yeah.
The original Plymouth Duster is a semi-fastback two-door coupe version of the compact-sized Plymouth Valiant automobile that was marketed. Okay, I guess I'm showing my age. That's why. Marketed from like 1970 to 76.
Ah,
The Plymouth Duster. There you
wow.
go. Now we know. Okay.
All right. This day
We're
in
done.
history.
I've done my duty. Okay, yeah, let's get to the
Yeah.
topic today, which actually is an important one. And you guys can kind of set it up here, but essentially it deals with insurance.
Mhm.
And it's a situation where a famous person was sold an insurance policy and it did not go according to plan. So I think there's some important lessons to learn in here. So Matt, why don't you maybe set the stage a little bit further here with what the situation is and what we can learn from it?
Yeah, I came across a post on social media kind of talking about this, and this was recently, about mid-October or so, and I just kind of took note of it and have kind of been following this story, and it's been very interesting. And I was thinking about it in the context of the podcast, and like, okay, I think it'd be important to call attention to it. And maybe there's probably people listening that have heard about this, but some of it too is around the angle of scams, but not all scams like look like scams, because we've talked about how to protect yourself from different types of scams and what scams are out there today and how those evolve over time, and the steps you can take to prevent yourself from getting scammed. But this is a situation with a famous person, which we'll talk about who it is, and an insurance company, a major insurance company. And it's like, well, how was that a scam? And it's like, well, maybe the better term for that is financial malpractice. Because
Yes.
it's not a legal theft, but I would say misrepresentation and conflicted advice that leaves people worse off. That's like the core of it. Because this person, they signed a contract, they bought something, but clearly this was set up not in the client's best interest. And that's the crux of the complaint or the lawsuit that's happening. So it involves NASCAR driver Kyle Busch and his wife Samantha and the Pacific Life Insurance Company, or Pac Life sometimes as it's commonly called. And essentially what they're saying is they put $10 million into a indexed universal life policy, and we'll kind of talk about what that is. But what they're saying is 80% of the money's gone. And it's been, I don't know, 5-6 years or so since they set up this policy, and they're just livid. I mean, they are themselves posting videos on social media calling attention to this, and they're really adamant about, one, they want to just help people realize, like, hey, this can happen to you just as easily as it happened to us. And two, the insurance industry, especially with products like these, there needs to be some reforms, because this is like ridiculous that this was even possible to happen.
Right.
It wasn't like they gave the money to someone who said they were going to invest it and then just stole the money. That's a financial scam.
Right.
They just stole the money. They put money in to this insurance product, and clearly it was misrepresented, and the incentive structure of the product. I mean, all the different things, and enough time's gone on to where more details have come out, because I was really curious as to like, what happened that would cause something like this. And for those that don't know, Kyle Busch is he's a NASCAR driver, and a very, very good one. He's won the Cup Series, which is like NASCAR's like year-long series, twice. He has more than 230 career wins. I mean, he's a very good driver. I've seen an estimate online, who knows how accurate it is, that he's worth about $80 million. And it's also estimated that, along with his driving, contract to race these cars for the team he's on, but also with endorsements and other things, that he earns, $16-17 million a year. So, I mean, he makes a good amount of money and has a lot of money. So, someone, while he doesn't want to be scammed or, sold something that's clearly not in his best interest, he's still going to be okay at at the end of the day. But he wants to get the word out. So he posted this video, and here's a little bit of the details too, because it's kind of like, how did they get into this situation, and why, like, how was it structured? And really, like, the takeaway I want people that we'll talk about is like, well, how do you prevent this from happening to you? If it happened to him, how do you'd think this person could hire the best financial people, the best financial advisors, the best financial planners that are out there. Yet this still happened. So over the course of a couple years, I'm seeing some of the details say about 2018 and 2020, they bought a series of different index universal life policies. And the premiums that they put in were about 10.4 million. And so, what those are life insurance that, they say index. So it's invested. So it's got an investment component. So you put more money into it than is just necessary to buy the death benefit. So there's a death benefit component too. So if you pass away, it's just like any term life insurance policy. They'll pay a death benefit to whoever the beneficiaries are. But then it has this additional component that is invested. Similar to whole life policies, where, we've talked about that too. Instead of it being invested, you're getting a dividend or return of premium from the insurance carrier. So you're putting more money in than just the cost of the, life insurance to earn something. And, that right there, I think, as many of our listeners would recognize, is like, we talk a lot about separating investing and insurance, because there's better, more efficient ways to accomplish both. But in some cases, these can make sense. But that's just what they bought. They bought these policies.
Well, you got to have money left in the investment accounts, though, right, Matt? After the agent's commissions and after the cost of insurance, which I'll bet you're going to get to here in a second.
Well, there's premiums that you fund it with, and you can fund it annual premiums, or you can fund it, a one-time lump sum, with the objective being that the investment's going to grow enough over time to offset the cost of the life insurance. Because there's costs inside these. There's the life insurance costs, there's whatever it's invested in typically has some sort of cost to it. There's these M&E expenses, their mortality, other things that the insurance company charges. So there's a lot of costs inside these. And so you've got to have enough in premiums to cover all those costs, but then also with the objective of it growing over time, or at least that's how they're presented. And in this case, it was presented as providing a tax-free retirement income that would, begin, sometime in his 50s. This is what's called an illustration. This was, kind of into the weeds a little bit, but they were provided an illustration that showed, okay, if you put this money in over this many years, you can begin taking out a, certain dollar amount. I think I've seen anywhere, because no one really has the specific details of the actual contract, but call it $800,000 is kind of what some of the estimates I've been reading online per year from, sometime in his 50s all the way to age 80. So nearly 30 years.
Yes.
Tax-free. So to be able to do that, to your question there, or your point there, Bill, is like, well, there has to be enough money in there to do that.
Of course.
And the way it's tax-free is you're not technically withdrawing the money, you're borrowing it out of the policy. And there's a cost to borrow the money because it's a loan to yourself, but they charge an interest rate. So, again, all these illustrations, they show this thing that just looks perfect, but you don't know what the assumptions are. Are they assuming it's 1% cost to borrow the money or 5%? What rate of return is it based on? Is it based on 5%, 6%, 7%? I mean, the way these things are put together is that most of the agents, the insurance agents, have control over those inputs
on the illustrations.
Yeah. Because
an unsuspecting consumer would just look at the illustrations and
they hear
the fine print says none of this. This is all just for illustrative purposes only. But
no guarantee that this is how it's going to work.
Trust it, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and it's, I don't think these insurance companies keep a copy of the illustration either. Because I've had clients who have, they've become clients of ours, and then they said, oh, by the way, we've got this. And, so we do some digging and some research, try and figure out what it is. And, I've called insurance companies and asked them, like, well, do you have the original illustration? Oh, no, they don't have, because the client's saying, well, this is what I was told. Like, when you have any of the documentation, well, typically no one has that. If they were even given it, they might have been shown it, but not given it to them. And I said, okay, well, can I get a new illustration? Or sure. What do you want it to say? And so that's just like, well, what do you mean? What do I want it to say? What should it say?
Right.
What's this thing based on? I mean, it's like, I don't know anything about what are you talking about? You just get to put in the inputs. And I'm sure they have some sort of restrictions or ranges around what you can do, a limitation that they would say is reasonable. It's not going to be egregious, but again, the concepts are just kind of like this is what I would say is an illustration is like a glorified Excel spreadsheet that just kind of shows straight line interest and, certain costs that are less than that, well, yeah, in a perfect scenario, that's always going to work. Just like if you said, well, if my account makes 6% a year and I only pull out 3% a year, it's like, yeah, that works forever. But can you guarantee that that's going to happen? You know exactly what everything's going to look like. You know exactly the rate of return because you can guarantee that's going to happen. That's where that doesn't usually exist. And especially in today's world.
Right.
Do you know what inflation's going to be? Because your 3% this year may not be enough if you're not inflating it. Like all those different things that people don't necessarily think about. But what triggered them to really look into this was they were told that they would pay these premiums. It was $1.5 million a year, I think, for 5 years to get to this, $10.4 million total premium. They would do it for 5 years. Well, they got a bill in the 6th year, a bill, which is, it's a premium notice that, hey, it's time for your premium. And that's what triggered them to say, well, wait a minute. We were told this was only supposed to be for 5 years. And then they started looking into it and they realized they put in $10.4 million. And what I saw was that I think they had around $2 million in cash value in there. Yes. So think about that. They put in 10. They could cash it in for 2.
Where'd the other 8 go, Matt?
Right. Well, it paid for
they had to pay for life insurance.
$60 million in life insurance, Matt, we saw collectively between the two, something along those lines.
There was 2 different policies. Some of the death benefit, $44.5 million on one and like $17.5 million on another.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's going to be expensive because that's a big death benefit. But you know what else is going to be expensive? Life insurance for a professional race car driver.
Yes.
But wait a minute, he was a good driver, though.
I don't think
He
they
is.
care.
And I think most insurance, just typical insurance policies, unless you specifically like call this out, which there are carriers who allow you to do this, exempt certain activities from being eligible for the death benefit. Like if you just buy a term life insurance policy, I think race car driving is not covered.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like they say, skydiving is not covered.
Right.
Unless you probably, hey, I told someone I like to skydive, I do it all the time, and I'd like to get coverage for that. Well, if you can find a carrier that'll do it, they're going to charge you more because the risk is higher for them to insure you. It was estimated that the cost of his life insurance for someone his age, and compared to someone his age, that was healthy, was 12 times higher than the normal person. And then he had on top of that over 60 million in total death benefit. I mean, that's going to be in a very expensive policy.
But wasn't one of the problems here that he wasn't getting this insurance for the death benefit? He wanted it for retirement income.
Well,
and
exactly.
then that was part of the problem here, is that the insurance person actually designed it such that it was a high commission because of the death benefit. But that's really not what the Buschs wanted. They wanted a retirement income thing. So there was some little misleading apparently going on there. Is that what seems to be coming out here?
Because they're saying, they're talking about in their public social media, posts and articles they've been interviewed and comments they've made, is like, we were discussing, tax-free retirement income as our objective. And so you combine that huge death benefit and then the fact that he's a race car driver, the cost of the life insurance is going to be outrageous. So his annual premium clearly it wasn't covering it was getting eaten up primarily by the cost of life insurance and the commissions that were earned by the agent that sold this policy. I wouldn't say it's common knowledge, but this is, insurance is typically sold through, commission. So someone's incented to sell something based on, the cost of the policy, the premiums.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you have a huge death benefit and the fact that he's a race car driver, that's going to be a pretty nice commission check.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we
the
saw
incentive structures all misaligned here.
So I guess we should say here that we're reporting the information that we've seen, and we're talking about it based on the information we've seen.
Yeah,
we have not seen the policy.
Don't see the contract.
So we're not making a specific recommendations or specific comments on the actual policy itself. So we're discussing here in open forum what we've been able to see, and there've been the Buschs, their iteration of what's happened. There's been several professionals out there that I've looked at in depth. And there has been more information. Again, I haven't seen the policy, so I can only just say that we're looking at secondhand information. But I think it's really important to be talking about this. And I saw that it's estimated that somewhere around, I believe, both the professional and the Buschs have estimated that it was 35%.
Yeah,
commission.
That's kind of the number I've
35-ish % or so. And then you have to pay for the insurance, then the 60 million of life insurance on top of take 35% right off the top. And it appears that there wasn't a whole lot left after that to go ahead and be invested. But then did you see, taking it one step further, Matt, that there was what was invested was not invested in a market-like vehicle. It was invested in some sort of fixed account that made something like 1.5% in years where I think 5 to 6 maybe of those years, the market was just screaming higher. I think 1 year in 22 it was down, but other than that, the average return was just pretty phenomenal for 6 years. Had it been in a market and anybody can look back, right, and look back and say what you should have done. Anybody has hindsight's 2020, but I believe it was presented as it was going to be in a market like vehicle. That was the way the illustration could have played out. It certainly wasn't illustrated at 1.5%.
Well,
right?
Exactly, that's the key there, because if there's these assumptions that are on the illustration is that the cash value is going to grow and it's going to offset some of the costs of the insurance and everything else. I mean, that's why it was presented as you only have to put in enough for the first 5 years and there'll be enough in there to grow to cover those costs. Well, that wasn't the case. And the fact that if it was not invested or only earning, 1% or 2.5% or 2.25%, whatever the amount was, it's like, well, that's not going to grow to cover the cost of the insurance at all. And those illustrations, like you said, it probably had 5, 6, 7%. Who knows? Something that's fairly common in an illustration is some range like that.
So what are the takeaways here? So if I'm a consumer, or if I'm presented with some insurance, like what are questions that I should be asking? What are things I should be watching out for?
Yeah, I know, like, because that is the key thing here. It's like, oh, how do you prevent this from happening to you? And, one, I like to think things, see things, or like, what's the framework I would look at this at? And it's like, well, would this product or even the structure of this too, because, again, some of the things that I've read are like, this agent knew how to structure it to maximize the commission by doing these certain add-ons or riders, they call it, within this life insurance policy to just maximize his commission. Knew how to, I guess, game their system internally, which of course you would think a company like Pacific Life somebody there would look at, as these, and especially this is a big policy. There's not that many, I'm sure, that come across that are $1 million plus a year premiums. I mean, maybe there's more than I think, but still somebody should be at Pacific Life thinking, well, does this make sense for the client? But that's not what they care about.
I mean, maybe the agent said, no, they want to maximize for life insurance. Like they want 60 million in case something happens. And they said, okay, check to that box. We asked the agent and he gave us an answer. Maybe that was.
They have underwriting and it went through and got through all their stuff. And again, I think it's because the agent knew exactly how to structure it to not trigger any of those things that would probably kick it to someone to say, well, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Right.
But would this make sense for anybody without a commission? That's one way to think about it. Like, well, no, it doesn't make sense. It only makes sense to the agent because he's the one who's getting the benefit here.
I suppose if Kyle would have died, then people would have said, well, I'm glad that he had that.
Yeah. I mean, there is that, but you could also have just bought a term life insurance policy too.
Sure.
Instead of this.
Oh yeah.
Because these are like where I have seen these used. And again, there potentially other solutions that are better than this. But when someone has a very large net worth and they have an estate tax issue, so that means, their net worth, like right now, an individual can pass away and leave to their beneficiaries, next generation, whoever, $15.5 million. And if you're married, you can double it. So call it $31 million. That's where the current estate tax exemption applies. Well, if you're worth $100 million, then you are 69 million over the limit, which then at today's, rates, 40% of it at the federal level of 69 million would be the estate tax that's due. And then potentially any, state specific, wherever you live, what the estate tax, and a lot of times they follow the federal, but some states are different. So there's insurance that someone could purchase that has a death benefit that could offset some, if not all, of that estate tax. Now, that insurance is not going to be cheap, but it's designed to, get money out of the estate and provide some benefits. And there's a lot of like advanced planning around some of those things where you could see something like this, but it wasn't for retirement income and death benefit. It's death benefit primarily. That you're buying something with a purpose.
Usually it's a second to die policy where it's when the second spouse it passes, when the estate tax is actually triggered. So a little different product than we're talking about here today.
That's right. So those things that it's like, well, okay, why do these even exist in the first place? Because that's an easy question that people would ask. Like, well, why would why is this even allowed? So again, that's part of some of that behind that. But really, yeah, as a consumer, it's thinking about like, well, does it sound too good to be true? I mean, that's kind of the easy framework to think about, like tax-free income. And if I die, they get this too. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, assuming everything works like the illustration, which again, I don't think was probably the same illustration that they're, were presented or talking about than actually what was the policy issued. But two, working with a fiduciary who's not, and also with someone who's not compensated on commissions, because their incentive is to sell you something that pays them the most. I mean, that's the incentive structure. Doesn't mean that's what people are doing. Not saying everything that's issued by these companies or every agent that exists is always trying to maximize their commissions, but that's that's the incentive structure. And it's like, well, is that the best structure for me as an individual or for my family to have someone who's incented to sell me something? Because if I don't buy this, they don't get paid.
Mm-hmm. It's
so are they
interesting,
going to
isn't
be
it?
objective?
We work as a fiduciary at Keen and a registered investment advisors, and what that means is that we are required to put our clients' best interests before our own. In every situation, and if there happens to be a conflict of interest, it better be disclosed upfront and clearly if there is some sort of conflict of interest. So you reduce all conflicts of interest, you try to eliminate all conflicts of interest and do what's in the best interest of the client in every situation. You would hope that every business participant that we deal with would have that standard, right? You would hope that when you go to get your car fixed, that they're going to have your best interests. They don't add some things or tell you the wheel bearings or things you don't know about. You would hope that the plumber comes and fixes only what needs to be fixed. And you would hope that everyone operated that way. And unfortunately, I guess they don't. In the investment world, there's a standard called suitability, which simply says this investment has to be suitable for you. It doesn't have to be the one that's the best, but it's just got to be suitable to meet that standard. Yeah. That's the brokerage model standard of engagement. Most clients do not know the difference. So in this person, this agent was operating under the suitability standard. So we're going to find out through civil courts whether or not they believe that it was suitable. We're going to find out what it appears it wasn't, but we're going to find out formally, I guess, as this case plays out. But, I think the takeaway, if I think about this, no matter how much dollars that you have, no matter what your net worth, is that whatever you have is everything to you.
Yep.
So it's as important to you, your nest egg, your asset, whether it's $1 million or $2 million or whatever, 80 million, it says that, Kyle, whatever the numbers are, your assets are every bit as important to you as his are to him and his wife and others are to them. So you have to engage. I believe you've got to engage a team of professionals. Matt already said it, but I'll say it again. And that team of professionals would be a competent fiduciary financial advisor, ideally to quarterback the situation, to have legal counsel. As your wealth grows, you're at least going to have legal counsel on the estate planning side with wills and trusts and things like that. You may have a family attorney. It almost acts like your general counsel. If you do have some outside investments and things, you need to make sure are all legally set up appropriately to protect you. Also, to make sure your risks and liabilities are right and the taxes are handled right, which leads right into your other team member, which is a CPA firm and possibly a tax attorney as well on your team as your net worth becomes more complex. And I believe that you have to engage in it yourself. You don't want to become an attorney or a CPA or a financial advisor or a CPA, but you need to be educated and you need to partner with your professionals. You need to, we really demand that at Keen here. We demand that if we're going to work with a family and take on a fiduciary responsibility, that we want to partner. We want to be a thought partner. We'll operate, we'll make suggestions and advise and counsel, but we want the input of the client. So everybody knows why we're doing what we're doing at all times. And I think you have to pay attention to it yearly, because I think somewhere that this could have been caught was even if they entered into this inappropriate contract, if you looked at it, really looked at it, either as an individual layperson or if you had this team approach, an attorney, a competent attorney, financial planner, CPA, you looked at that, ran it by your team, they could show you a statement of what actually happened, what the agent said was supposed to happen in the illustration, and then what was happening after year one, after year two. What was happening, and not say, oh, it's got a season, it's going to take a while, then it's all going to turn around and it's going to somehow magically work. I think you catch stuff like this, even if you got into it. Unfortunately, you could catch it at year one or two, maybe ask some questions, and it doesn't end up taking, $10.5 million of premiums before you figure it out and it comes to a head. So engagement with the appropriate advisory teams and engagement in following the process, even if I know it's irritating. A lot of people want to live their lives and they're busy, like Kyle Busch and his wife, I'm sure, but there's no, I don't want to say excuse because I don't want to be harsh, but there's just no reason, let's say, to not take the few hours a year, few hours every 6 months to dig deep and let your advisors advise you and not get caught up in something like this. It's so important. And at Keen, we get hit with so many different people wanting to come and tell us about this hot new investment, shiny object in all kinds of areas that, hey, if you guys could just believe in this and you could try to push it out to your clients. And we just don't bite on that. There's just so many things out there. And our clients ask us a lot about things they see on social media, tax-free this, tax-free that, there's so many headlines too to try to sucker people in, some of which are absolute scams, some are which just trying to bait people into giving them money into certain things that probably aren't going to be in their best interest. So really taking the initiative to be engaged and involved. And, I will say one more thing. I saw this from a credible source, that Madoff's clients are probably going to have probably gotten more of their money back. Bernie Madoff's clients are probably going to have ended up after everything's settled out, get more of their money back than this particular client would have in a product that was actually legal, at least to this point, unless the lawsuit they prevail and they're able to get some money back. That's an interesting concept, isn't it? When they dissolved Madoff's estate ultimately and got money and did this and that, and actually investors in Madoff that thought they made money had to give it back, by the way. And it got distributed to people that lost. But in this case, unless they prevail in the lawsuit, they will have lost more as a percentage than Bernie Madoff's clients ultimately. So this is serious business. The market is a whirlwind, and if you're not prepared, I've talked about this on prior when we've talked about the lottery winners on that episode. If you're not prepared and emotionally mature enough to have resources, it will take wings and fly away one way or another. And so it's so important. I honor the people that listen into our program and hopefully listen in some other ones as well to try to educate yourself on these things. That's why we take the time to do it too.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like understanding how someone is compensated, that's a key piece to this too. It's like, just, you don't have to be an expert on these things, kind of as Bill mentioned, but just asking those questions like, okay, well, how is the person, if you're, sitting across the table, asking them and understanding how are they compensated? Yeah. And then two, do you understand what it is? Like, is this a product that's opaque? Because it doesn't mean that all things that are opaque are not reasonable or could be a solution, but that's just something to understand. Like, do I understand what this is even is? Because I mean, this is complex, how stuff's all structured, and those can just lead to problems in the future, because who does even understand most of some of this stuff that's very, very opaque and not transparent? And then how liquid is it too? Like, okay, if I needed some of this money back, what happens? Oh, well, the thing doesn't work. Okay, well, that's good to know. Like, if I didn't pay the premium in year 3 or whatever, what happens? It's just asking those questions at least helps you uncover, oh, well, I don't like that. And then, the last thing is, it's always putting the things in the context of the financial plan. Like, well, how does this fit into my financial plan? What problem does it solve for me? That's, you start thinking it that way. Like, well, what problem is this solving?
Well, you
Then
have
you
to have a
can-
financial plan first, Matt. And
Exactly.
so a lot of people
if you don't have a plan to
financial
even
plan.
have that conversation around,
Right. So they're
that
just
makes
buying
it very
things
hard to make
willy-nilly.
a decision.
Yes.
All right, guys, another great episode, another important one here. Lots of lessons here.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that insurance is a bad product. I mean, there are appropriate use cases for
That's right.
insurance. It's just when they're used inappropriately and not structured in a way that best fits the particular need that the client has, and if incentives are not aligned in a way that may cause the insurance person to perhaps not do something that would necessarily be in the best interest, even if it's suitable. So again, different standards there. So lots of things to chew on here. Very important. So guys, appreciate that. And for each of you listening, if you want to learn more about Keen Wealth Advisors, please check us out at keenwealthadvisors.com. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast already, please do subscribe to Keen on Retirement through your favorite podcast player. Also, check us out on YouTube. We have a Keen Wealth Advisors YouTube channel as well. And these videos, you can see our smiling, handsome faces on YouTube if you'd like, instead of just hearing our smooth voices here. So check us out on YouTube as well. So as always, thank all of you for listening. And Bill and Matt, thank you for spending some time here today to help educate and inform our audience out there. So we'll catch you all on the next episode of Keen on Retirement.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Steve. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
The Steve Sandusky Advisor Network and Belay Advisor are not affiliated with Keen Wealth Advisors. Opinions expressed by Steve are his own and not necessarily the opinions of Keen Wealth Advisors. Keen Wealth Advisors is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Keen Wealth Advisors and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. The contents of this podcast are intended for the residents of the United States of America. No advice may be rendered by Keen Wealth Advisors unless a client service agreement is in place. This program is intended for informational purposes only and should not be construed as advice on or a recommendation of any particular investment, strategy, or as tax or legal advice for your specific situation. Keen Wealth Advisors is not a tax or legal advisor. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your licensed professional prior to investing. Information in this program was compiled from sources believed to be reliable. Due to the constant state of data changing, we do not guarantee the timeliness or the accuracy of the information provided. Our views or opinions at the time you are listening to the podcast may be different than they were when the podcast was recorded. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Any indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. Any prices that are referenced or market forecasts are as of the date stated and are not necessarily our opinions moving forward. As always, please remember, investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. This podcast is not allowed to be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced without permission from Keen Wealth Advisors.